Hi, this is Eddie Deezen. You're listening to Breaking the Fourth Wall. I was Mandark in Dexter's laboratory. Ha 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 ha.
You are listening to Breaking the Fourth Wall on Realm of the Mist Entertainment. Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Stolle back with another Breaking the Fourth Wall. I know it's only been a day. Have you missed me? Well, check it out, guys. I'm sitting here with somebody who, quite honestly, always made me laugh as a kid. With trying to fry a snake or just being confused at some of the things that were going on in Superman 2. Ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to be sitting here with Irish Jack O'Halloran. Jack, how you doing today, sir?
I'm well, thanks. And yourself?
Oh, I can't complain. As I stated, you know, of course, you're most people will recognize you as, I always confuse the name, but it's like Nod.
Non, N-O-N.
Non, N-O-N, Non. From Superman and Superman 2. He was the silent partner of the trio of Terrence Stamp, you know, General Zod, and all. So you would recognize him from that. But, I mean, you have an impressive list of other performances as well. Looking here, you know, Dragnet, 87 Dragnet, of course. Hero and the Terror, The Baltimore Bullet, Farewell, My Lovely. This one kind of blew my mind because it's been years since I've seen it, so obviously I don't remember exactly the actors, but you were in King Kong?
Yeah, with Jessica Lange. It was
Lange.
1976.
Yep.
It was Jesse's first picture. Yeah.
Who did you play in the movie?
Joe Perko. I was the foreman of the oil crew.
Okay. All right.
Said the first words in the movie, actually.
Nice.
We were loading the ship up down there. Yeah.
Wow.
Renee Bourgeois and I.
That shows that you've been involved in the entertainment industry for many, many years. Obviously, I'm going to jump around here because you're an East Coast boy, but you know, from Runnymede, New Jersey.
Runnymede, New Jersey. I moved over there in the late 50s. They built the Walt Whitman Bridge.
Okay.
And everybody fled out of Philly into South Jersey. And we moved, we built a house in Belmar.
Okay.
Off the Black Horse Pike. And I graduated high school, went to West Catholic, and then I graduated from Triton Regional High School over in Runnymede.
Okay. Yeah, now they charge you to get back into Philly, and going to Jersey's free.
Yeah. I remember when they built that bridge, and after a certain period of time, they said that the toll was going to be removed, but instead of removing it, they upped it.
Oh, they keep upping it every year. Every year you see an announcement of like, oh, the tolls are going up another 10 cents or another $1, you know, depending on the bridge, you know. So.
Somebody's lunch money.
Mm-hmm. Everything keeps going up, but the paychecks. But now here's the thing that a mutual friend of ours was explaining to me, that you have kind of an infamous father.
Albert Anastasia. Yeah.
Albert Anastasia, who was a known mafia, if I'm not.
He was probably the most feared guy that ever came into the country. He ran a little company in New York called Murder Inc.
Oh wow.
He was partners with Charlie Luciano and Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello, and they all came into the country around the same time.
Wow. What was that like growing up in that environment?
I grew up in Philly. I was a love affair, World War II love affair. My father was he was stationed, and when they were looking for him everywhere in New York, he was in Fort Indiana Gap in an army base there.
Okay.
And so he spent of course, he never spent any time there. He was in Philadelphia every night. And and my mother made Jane Russell look like a boy, so I was I was the results of an affair.
Huh.
And during World War II. And
Wow.
he left me down there I was raised by my mother in Philly. And but he was always there. There was people around me that looked after me. And I was 14 years old when they assassinated him in '57.
Wow.
And then I got to be very close to Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello and people like that.
I hear a little cat in the background.
Yeah.
Vying for attention. Sounds like my cat whenever she's hungry. All right, so essentially you grew up in Jersey and in Philadelphia.
Philly, and then we moved over to Jersey, and then I was raised up and down the East Coast. I spent time in New York. I spent time in Boston. I was going to play football for the Eagles, and when they brought Joe Kuharich in, he traded a championship football team away. So Ali had won the title, and I said to some friends of mine, I can beat that guy. And they said, good idea. So I wound up in the gym in South Philly, and 6 months later, I embarked on a professional boxing career.
Which is where I was heading next. But before I go to the boxing career, Eagles, really?
Yeah, well, the Jets grabbed me first, but it was at a time in that era you couldn't play pro ball until your class graduated college. They didn't have any hardship cases then.
Right.
You had to wait till your age factor, your class would have graduated. So I was, it was like a couple of years I had to wait, and I played for the Jets it was like a farm team. There was a team out of Tinicum, Philadelphia.
Okay.
Tinicum, Dick Christie, Jimmy Christie. A lot of guys waiting to go into the pros played there. So we played a few games a week,
Wow.
both ways. It was a trip.
Nice.
And then when I was getting ready to play, Philadelphia had a great team, and I had a lot of friends of mine that were playing down there. So I said to Webb Eubank, I would like to go down and play with Philly. He said, well, you always got a home here, kid, whatever you want to do. And I went down to Philly, and Jerry Wallman had just bought the team, and they had a great team. I mean, Jurgensen was there, Tommy McDonald, Maxie Vaughn, and then Kuharich came in, and he traded Jurgensen and McDonald for Norman Snead, and traded 5 great linebackers to Green Bay for Jim Ringo, who was at the end of his career. And he traded a championship, traded Maxie Vaughn and Irv Cross out to L.A. for a kickoff return guy that they never really even got. So I said, this is ridiculous. And I come out of a team meeting one day, and he walked right by myself and Timmy Brown. And I said, hey, Kuharich, you don't talk to people? And he turned around and said something stupid or something. And then I said, take this team and stick it up your ass. And Timmy said, while you're at it, trade me. So I think Timmy got traded to Baltimore. Timmy was a great ball player.
I'm just.
And I said, I got into boxing, And
See, I'm sitting here shaking my head. You can't see because we're not on camera, but I'm sitting here shaking my head because all I keep thinking to myself is, the more things change, the Philly still does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come
Pass
on.
Young Moore. Spent a lot of days at Pass Young Moore. In fact, the Rocky movie came from me. I mean, I was doing Farewell My Lovely, and Stallone did a bit role he came out from New York with Joe Spinelli, who brought a lot of actors from New York to do character, fill-in roles for Farewell My Lovely. And Stallone did one of them, and he was writing the script, Rocky, and he sat down and picked my brain every day. He had never been to Philadelphia.
Well, see, that was another thing I was going to ask about, because it was mentioned to me that obviously besides your professional boxing career, that you were the main inspiration for the Rocky films, and I was going to definitely jump into that.
I was the gangster fighter out of Philly, and and I told him, explained the waterfront to him, and and the gym that they used was the Passyunk gym down at Passyunk and Moore, walking up those steps every day, and it was he put that whole Philadelphia flavor in there, and he got that from me. He had never, like I said, he had never been to Philly before, so he's and when he does that thing in the morning, like breaking the raw eggs and stuff,
right?
I do that every day. I still do it.
You still do it?
Yeah.
Doctors don't yell at you about cholesterol or anything, or salmonella.
I'll tell you a funny story. When they had an epidemic for like they call it that disease. Oh my God, my brain just went dead. You get it from chickens and stuff and eggs. Salmonella.
Salmonella, yes.
The salmonella scare going on around Philadelphia. So I called my doctor on the phone and I said, well, I eat these raw eggs every day. He said, how many? I said, between 6 and a dozen, depends. He said, every day? I said, every day. He said, listen, if we get a threat here, we want your blood.
You're probably immune.
He said, you got to be immune. So
wow.
He often laugh about that. It's just.
What did the raw egg thing do for you? I mean, I've always wondered that from the days of Rocky. And I mean, I spent a good portion of my 20s and 30s as an independent professional wrestler and still never thought of drinking a raw egg.
Well, it's pure protein. It's in fact, it wasn't just the eggs. The vitamins are actually in the shell. I used to grind the shells and everything up in the blender. I used to put the egg and the shells, everything in it.
Okay, so you weren't just cracking an egg in a cup and drinking it down. You were blending it all up together.
Oh yeah, blend it all up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it helped you out a lot because during the early 70s, it does show that you spent a lot of time in the boxing ring. As you said, you trained for 6 months and then got your first break.
Well, I had to lose. When I first started, I was playing pro ball, so I weighed like 280, and they just had to take a lot of weight off. So they brought me down to like 230, 226. I think my first fight I fought at 226. I was shaking. I was so thin. I just. But it was good. And then the problem was I'd been boxing about a year, I guess. And I was undefeated, I think, 16, 17 fights. And I did a physical one day, and they told me I had a thing called acromegaly, which is a tumor of the pituitary.
Oh, man.
And they told me that I shouldn't fight anymore. And I said, yeah, right, forget about that. So and then I never got it fixed until 75. I was fighting out in San Diego. And I won the California Heavyweight Championship, and the doctor out there became good friends of mine. He and I became very good friends, Dr. Lundeen. And he said, Jack, if you don't go to Scripps and get a workup done, I'm going to pull your license because this disease will kill you.
Right.
And so I went to Scripps, and sure as hell, boy, we were supposed to put out at like 10% growth hormone. I was putting out 110. 110. Wow. And they couldn't believe, because it causes real mental depression and everything. So they couldn't believe how I could even get up to fight. How could you get your head ready to fight? So and then about a year after that, I retired, and I had turned. They came to me to do several films in between. The Great White Hope in 1968, I turned down.
Right.
With James Earl Jones, and the Thomas Crown Affair. McQueen wanted me to do in Boston. I turned it down. And then they called me on the phone and they said, they want you to do a picture called Farewell My Lovey with Robert Mitchum. And I said, you know what? I think it's time. So I blame it all on Mitchum.
Well, that was gonna be my question, because so far in the conversation, it seems like you were a sportsman. You had very high aspirations to be a professional athlete in some way, whether it be football or, as you said, you played pro ball for a while, and then obviously a professional boxer. Where did the acting really come in? Was it because you were approached, or was it something you always had interest in?
I always had an interest in it from the time I was a kid. But, it was like, oh, man, it can't be, like in high school, I can never go into drama, man. I'm an athlete. I played football, basketball, track,
Right.
I was like a sissy thing, man. You don't do that stuff.
Right. It's
but
like
I always
being
had
part
the
of the chess club.
I always had the inclination to do it, and I always had this thought pattern. And I guess and I learned when I did farewell and I hooked up with Mitchum, and I learned that, it's something you really can't teach anybody. You either have it or you don't. They can teach you different fundamentals and stuff, but the actual ability is just inbred in you. You either have it natural. Like I remember asking Mitchum one time, what is this? What's the definition of a star? And he laughed. And he said, it's a presence, Jack. You either have that presence on screen or you don't. And people like him and Brando and Gregory Peck, and they had this great presence about them.
Oh, without question.
No matter what picture they did, like you could. And then there were guys that were students of acting, and you could go and see a picture, and Bill Holden was a good actor. But you'd see a picture and you'd walk outside and you'd be saying, boy, this guy did this, he did that. What was his name? It didn't have that presence where the name stuck in your brain. You know what I mean? Huh. Whereas if you went to a Brando picture, it didn't matter what he did. Oh, boy, wasn't Brando great at this, or wasn't Brando great at that, or, and there's just actors like that. And then when you work with people like that and you find that, working with Mitchum, when he came on the set, you could hear a pin drop.
Right.
People had that much respect, and Brando the same way. Brando was a trip. And Jimmy Coburn and Omar Sharif was another one who had an amazing charisma. So I was very fortunate. Gene Hackman. I was very lucky to work with some really superior actors, and I could see that they all had the same, a little different makeup here and there, but they just had that. They were never late. They loved what they did. They were very good at what they did.
That was something, especially is when you bring up Gene Hackman, because obviously we're going to lead back to Superman eventually. My first exposure to Gene Hackman was Superman, his interpretation of Lex Luthor. So I always thought he was kind of a goofball actor as a kid, because knowing him as Lex Luthor, and then seeing some of his serious and real roles.
Look at the French Connection.
Right, the French Connection, or even like a more recent film, like off the top of my head, like A Crimson Tide. And
Gene's an extremely good actor.
Yeah, it's amazing that he could put on such a serious, dramatic role in one day, and then another day he could chew the scenery with the best of them in a comic book film. Yeah, it absolutely amazes me.
He had a great presence about him. Still does. I mean, he's retired, but Gene's an interesting guy.
How much laughs and all that were on the Superman films, especially, I got to imagine, like, I'm trying to put myself in 78 and 80, doing Superman 1 and 2, because I understand they were filmed back to back.
Oh, we did them together. We were filming it together, actually. In fact, we had to stop shooting 2 so they could finish 1. They had to release it.
Right.
And Donner got hooked up into shooting 2. We really got into it. And, and we were shooting both films at the same time, using the sets and everything. And it was, it became like a family affair. You're working 3 years on something with a group of people, and it just was, there were long days. It was we broke a lot of precedents when we did Superman. We changed a lot of the technology factors and did things that no one ever did before. and it showed, because today the film still, 40 some years later, it still stands out.
Oh yeah, it's still definitely, especially Superman 1 and 2 is like these standard Superman films.
Well, today they're getting darker and darker. I mean, the whole thing that we did was so much better, I thought. 1 and 2, just great films.
Oh yeah, I mean the special effects may be better in today's Superman films or comic book films in general, but I mean, you ask anybody who Superman is, for example, and 9 times out of 10, the first answer is Christopher Reeve.
They'll never. I mean, it was the first film he ever did, really, as a movie.
Right.
And it was Richard Donner. Richard Donner got a performance out of that kid that no one. I mean, no one will ever be Superman and Clark Kent the same. The way he handled both parts was just amazing. To go from one to the other,
Now, were you a comic book fan when you were offered the role? Like, were you even familiar with this universe?
I was familiar with. Well, everybody read Superman movies when we were kids. I mean, it was one of the first comic books. You figured that Superman was the first American superhero.
Right.
And when Gene Hackman and I were doing a picture down in Spain called March or Die, and they asked us to come up to London to talk to Donner, and they had sent me the script, and I read it, and he wanted me to do Non and Gene to do Lex Luthor, and he asked me when I went up, and he said, "Does it bother you if you do this guy as a mute?" I said, "Not at all. In fact, I embraced it because Jackie Gleason was a friend of mine. He did a picture called Gigo." Right. Which he won an Oscar for, playing a deaf, dumb mute. And I said, if I ever get an opportunity to do a film where I'm doing body language and facial expression and stuff, I would gladly do it, just to see if I could pull that off. And Non was a perfect character because Terrence was a brutish general, and Sarah was a man-eater, so somebody had to relate to the kids. So I played this brutish man as a child, learning how to work my eyes and learning how to go through things, and it worked. It came off very well.
Well, I agree with that because looking back and thinking about it, and I'll admit, when I was setting up for this interview, I went back and I watched the Superman films, to reacquaint myself with you, and I could almost see Non, the way you played him. I can almost see Non being. Like, if he wasn't around General Zod and all, being just, like, the lovable teddy bear.
Well, it's just so many people have come up to me, and there were people when I first started doing conventions, and people came up and said, "Oh, my God, you actually talk." and the guy would say, or someone would say to me, "Your character scared the hell out of me, but I loved your character," So I evidently I got away with what I was trying to accomplish.
Oh no, it absolutely did. You did sold well. Like I said in the intro, I used to laugh at watching Non, pick up the snake that was already torched and just staring at it, trying to get the eye beams to work.
I was trying to make my lunch, man.
Yeah, used to make me laugh even as a kid, and I still chuckle at it when I watch it now. All these years later. But yeah, I mean, like, how weird was it doing the film? You've got this great talent, in Terrence Stamp and in Gene Hackman, surrounding you, plus young up and comers like Christopher Reeve, and I mean, like the sets and the script and everything. Did it almost, like, the best way I could describe this question is I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and when they were filming Star Wars 1977, a lot of people thought it was just goofy, silly, was not going to do anything. Did you guys have that same kind of?
No, actually, you can tell when you're doing a film, whether it's going to click.
Right.
Yeah? And because of the cast that we had a great cast, and even the character roles were filled in by great English actors. I mean, Terrence Stamp is a great actor.
Right.
Sarah's a very good actress. But the old elders were Trevor Howard and some of the old dynamite actors from England. So it was kind of, there was a great ambiance,
Right.
And I remember when we were, they were, like I said, they were working on doing too much, and Warner Brothers came out and said, that maybe they don't pick up 2 because they were being late showing Superman 1, and Salkind Alexander was a very clever guy. So he said, well, you guys you're telling me that I can get another distributor? And they said, well, maybe, yeah. So he sat them all down in a screening room. I'll never forget this, at Pinewood Studios. And we were sitting in the back watching this because they showed the fight scene.
Okay.
And these guys couldn't get the rubber bands off their money fast enough. I mean, it was because it was so brilliant. The flying shots where we weren't on wires and stuff. And people couldn't believe how we were flying under bridges and around buildings. And the fight scenes were done terrifically over Metropolis and all.
Right.
So it just came out, and to sit there and watch it and say, wow, man, geez, this picture is going to be unbelievable. And of course it was, And
like I said, it's still a standard. I mean, just think about people like my kids' age. I have a 10 and an 11-year-old. And I mean, even they quote Superman 2, kneel before Zod, and yeah.
I mean, I go to screenings, different places, and children that are, again, like you're saying, 9, 10 years old. They're in awe of the picture, That's so, and all these Marvel pictures and stuff. They don't compare to it for some reason. It works out pretty well. It worked well, and we're looking actually to because of the hologram technology today. The technology is so good that we're in discussions we're waiting for the whole merger thing with Warner Brothers to finish and take, and settle down with AT&T, because we want to go back and bring Christopher back, and we have a great storyline to bring the 3 villains and him back.
Wow.
And do a couple more Supermans, which would open the door again. And for Warner Brothers, it'd be great because Marvel's killing them right now with all these other, outer space things that are being done.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when we were talking about like the newer Supermans compared to what you guys did, back in the 70s and 80s. Is I think it misses that levity and that heart that your films had.
Well, Superman would never go around killing people, I mean, not in our pictures anyway. And it was they weren't just dark. These are very dark. These pictures, the way that they've taken Superman and made him almost like a menacing character.
Right.
And they've taken away that all-American way, man. It was so obvious that he was there for Earth to help the people of Earth, not to croak people. And even the villains that he went after, he put them in jail. He didn't kill them.
Right. Well, that's kind of where I was going with it. It was like, it's very dark and very serious. It kind of, I don't want to use the term campy because campy belongs to like 66 Batman, but it was lighthearted. There was humor and innocence to the films that I think are heavily missed.
Well done. I mean, Donner was a great director. Richard Donner, if you see the Donner cut compared to Lester's Superman 2, it's a much better film.
Oh, I own it. Yeah, the Donner cut.
Yeah, much better film.
So, of course, everything that we're talking about here, from your boxing career to the movies and everything, you have discussed all this on numerous occasions on podcasts and interviews throughout your career. But you have also put out a book.
Oh, Family Legacies is a very good read. What we did was, it goes back in history and, it tells, instead of just having like a mob picture, it shows how organized crime in the very beginning, you go back in the 1900s, the early 1900s, the government, industry, unions, and organized crime were partners. for a long time.
Right.
A lot of the illicit monies that were made in the beginning were put back into the growth of the country. Like my father controlled all the docks, and all the unions were people. They created jobs for people. They put everybody to work because their main deal was gambling, extortion, loan sharking. So if you didn't have money, how could you pay them? So they made sure you went to work.
Right.
And it was a whole different scenario until the 60s when the Kennedys came in and the drug business started, and just a whole different things have changed so much in our society. So what I've done is that we've written a book that starts with my father's death and ends with Kennedy's death, and I tell the truth about a lot of things that went on in the country and how the changes came about.
I've always said that one of the things that seems to be missing in the world, especially in places like Philadelphia, and I'm sure you know this for yourself, was the influence of the mafias, because even though the mafias were criminals.
We had deals when I was a kid, running the streets in Philly, and we controlled the city, and we Frank Rizzo was part of our deal. I remember him when he was a cop. I remember when he became captain. I remember when he became commissioner. I remember when he became mayor. And his brother was the head of the fire department.
Right.
And you had Clarence Ferguson. You had there was a lot of, but there was a camaraderie there. We didn't push or sell drugs and shit. We were just gambling and stuff that we did, the unions and all. But there was the neighborhoods were safer.
That's where I was going with it. Is you wouldn't have put up with a lot of the crap.
I lived in Southwest Philadelphia, 53rd and Florence. You wouldn't even want to go in that neighborhood.
Right.
When I was a kid, we never locked our front doors. Kids played in the street from sun up to sundown. You could put a baby pram out front of your house. No one ever bothered it. People used to sleep in their backyards because there was no air conditioning. In the summertime, it gets so humid and stuff. People actually camped out in the backyard.
Right.
And they put cots out there and stuff, and they, netting things around for the mosquitoes. But it was a whole different culture. It was like neighborhoods were taken care of by people. You had neighborhood bars every corner. There was like a little bar, like a little neighborhood bar. And there was always a bookmaker there. And if someone needed $50 or something for an anniversary or something, there was always somebody that had a way, because people didn't go to banks in those days. How many people back in the 50s and 60s actually had credit cards even?
I don't think there was even necessity for it back then.
Well, it was a whole different environment, and people were there to help each other. I remember when they changed the law for bookmaking, and they made bookmaking and number writing a felony.
Right.
And what they did in one swoop, because you had housewives who stayed at home and were answering the telephone and writing numbers down, taking bets, and somebody would come by and pick up the slips and take them into the house and all, but they were getting paid $150 a week cash. That money went into the neighborhood, went to the local stores.
Right.
Went to the environment. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Bought sneakers and bicycles and stuff for kids and stuff. And that was taken away. Woof, one swoop. When they made it a felony to write numbers and stuff, and people were getting 6 months, and so it knocked a lot of that out of the box.
Well, that's what I was meaning. Like you look at the way neighborhoods are nowadays, especially some of the very crime-ridden neighborhoods where drugs are rampant and violence are happening. So you hear it on the news all the time where people are getting assaulted.
Well, there's weapons everywhere. I mean, you see, I tell you, people ask me this question a lot, and the one word in our society that has been totally eradicated is the word respect.
Yeah.
People don't respect themselves. How are they going to respect anybody else? And you have kids that stay in the house. They don't go out anymore. They're on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that don't even talk. They text people back and forth. They don't even talk to people on the phone. They text each other. There's no communication. People don't have awareness of what is really going on in the world, other than what they get off of a computer.
I yell at my girl all the time for that. It's like, you want to have a conversation, call me. You want to send me a grocery list while I'm out at the store? Text me.
Yeah. I mean, pick up, have communication. They don't communicate. People don't. So what they do is they envision what people are like. They don't have an actual living experience of people. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, you're not wrong at all. I've always made that statement to a lot of people when it comes to like texting. Is sometimes you wind up in an argument with somebody because they mistook what you said because they can't hear the inflection, the tonality of how you mean something.
Yeah, I mean they just don't. They can't read people. They don't know what they. You got to look people in the eye, And it's. I mean, I don't know. That's the way I always did business when I was a kid. I want to see you. I want to see you eyeball to eyeball.
Right.
But I was brought up in the streets. So I understood. I understood the what you would call mafia or familiar way of life. I understand the word respect. And even when I was a young kid, I mean, you respected your elders.
Mm-hmm.
I would never go home and say that I got hit by a nun in school. Because I get hit, you must have done something awful bad. Wham, you get hit again. So you just never did anything. But I mean, classrooms. I remember in my grammar school, we had classrooms with 90 children in them. But you could hear a pin drop.
Right.
I mean, those nuns, they controlled those rooms, boy. They'd knock your head off. You were. It was a whole different environment. The learning process was a lot different because you learn things in a different manner, but you learned. And then if you didn't pass a grade, they'd leave you back. They don't do that anymore.
Well,
they push kids right through now.
Well, that was something I was going to say is that the world has changed so much now because like when you use the term respect, I think part of the respect of parents and respect of teachers was the fact that you did have a healthy bit of fear, and kids nowadays they don't have that. Like back then, a nun could smack you with a ruler, and your parents would beat the hell out of you if you mouthed off to them. Nowadays, you can't raise your voice to a kid without DHS being called on you.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Oh no, it's totally changed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I always learned to say thank you, no thank you, and all that stuff. When I was a kid, I had respect for elders and stuff. Or if it was an older person, you helped them across the street. You helped. You used to, just a whole different kettle of fish. The word respect, period, across the board, has been taken out of our society, unfortunately.
I think it needs to make a comeback. With all these with all these retro things today, with all these retro things today, people putting on '70s clothes and music starting to re-emulate things from like the '80s. When's respect come back?
You would God. I remember when I was 13, 14 years old, and I was involved in Danny and the Juniors.
Okay.
Singing group, because we sung on the corners, harmonized stuff,
Doo-wop.
And I remember when we did the first record was At the Hop, and they were putting the song together, and it wasn't actually, the deal wasn't done. I went home to my mother. I said, I'm quitting school, man. I'm going to be a recording star. And all. She said, yeah. Guess what? Your recording days just stopped. You're finished at school, And Artie Scott Teese's mother did the same. There was a couple of us that were in the group, and and the people used to call. They'd call the cops on you when you were out there singing too much and late at night. And then when the record was cut, they were inviting you in your house. Oh my God, stars! I mean, it was a whole change of an environment. I mean, King Sessing Playground down off of King Sessing Avenue and Chester Avenue, we would harmonize in the bathrooms with Lee Andrews and the Hearts.
Oh, wow.
You know, the black groups would be there and the white groups, and there was an understanding of mutuality there. You know, there were so many groups in Philadelphia at that time. It was a big deal. You had Frankie Avalon and Fabian and Buddy Greco and you know, I mean, shoosh. North Philadelphia had groups up there, and West Philadelphia and South Philadelphia. You know, there was groups everywhere. Bobby Rydell, you know.
Wow.
American Bandstand was a big deal.
Now you keep throwing it out. You're talking legends in this city. Legends.
We were all part of that. You know. That's what we grew up with. It was the whole environment. I mean, Andrew Lee Johnson, it was his name, Lee Andrews and the Hearts. Those guys, they wrote, and they were part of the payola era. They wrote like 14 great hits, and they were still driving around in an old station wagon. They never sold the money, you know what I mean?
Right.
They lost their bass singer, Angus. I'll never forget. He got locked up for a B&E because he didn't have any money.
Jeez.
You know? And these guys had Long Lonely Nights, Teardrops. I mean, they had some great songs. That you know, it was a heck of an era. There's no two ways about that, boy. Connie Francis and God, the just one talent after another. Pat Boone, all Philadelphia people, you know.
Wow. You're making me stroll down memory lane. Like every name you're mentioning, I remember being played in my house growing up, because that was my mom's music growing up. You know what I mean? That was.
I can remember when I was a kid. You know, black people couldn't go past South Street into South Philly.
Right.
So there was a borderline there. You know.
Right.
And there was a club there at Broad and South, where Billie Holiday used to smuggle her in the city to sing. We used to go through the kitchen and watch her. I was like 11 years old, you know. And she was so unbelievable talent, just an incredible. Then they would smuggle her back out of the city because she was always in trouble with drugs and shit.
Right. Man, oh man.
What a great entertainer! My God.
I'll tell you what, you're entertaining the hell out of me. I can't believe I'm sitting here talking to the muted non. But I mean, you know, I guess the big question left is what's next for Mr. Jack O'Halloran?
Well, we got Family Legacy. If people go to FamilyLegacyTheNovel.com, the book is there. We're getting ready to make a film. I'm writing 3 more books, and we're going to do a television series as well out of it. So it's time that some truth was told about what actually went on in our society and the changes. You know, there's a lot of changes, and I'm 76 years old. I've seen a lot of changes in our society from the time I was a kid till today.
Right. Well, I gotta ask. I know the first book is kind of heavy, dealing with some of the darker sides of like you were saying, from the day your dad died to the day Kennedy died. Any of them going to have a little bit of humor to them? Because sitting here having a conversation with you for 42 minutes, I think you got a little bit of comedian in you.
You know, they all have. There was humor in all those guys. They were some. They had their quirky ways, but it was cleverly. They lived life,
right?
Life, you know. They had. It's like my father. They talk about Murder Incorporated. Well, but they never killed innocent people.
Right.
It was all all interrelated in their own world. You understand? I mean, the things that they did was about how to make money, and and how to make your neighborhood flourish, and how to make the people around you make money. So people had a growth pattern, and it was just I don't know. I had a lot of fun times with some of those guys. There were a lot of funny guys, boy. I mean, a lot of comedy, a lot of stuff you watched watch them do certain things. That, the respect that they commanded was amazing.
It's absolutely astounding.
I mean, you go into places and people would whisper and say, "Oh my God, do you know who eats in that restaurant? Do you know who's hanging out on that corner?" You know what I mean? People used to line up to see who was getting out of the cars and stuff. It was it was great. I mean, I enjoyed being raised there. I enjoyed the East Coast, Boston. I loved Boston. I loved New England. North Jersey was a trip. It was like a whole different entities, you know.
Plans.
South Jersey, they ran across the bridge like, wow, like they're getting free into another land. You know, people infested South Jersey overnight. It was like.
Any plans of returning to the East Coast?
Yeah, I go back and forth all the time. Yeah, I family still in Jersey.
Okay.
Family still lives down by Ocean City, right outside of Atlantic City there.
Okay.
It's I mean, I can remember my summers. We spent our summers in Wildwood. I mean, you always worked when you were kids. I mean, we never did I not have a job in the summertime, bussing dishes or selling newspapers on the beach or setting pins in a bowling alley. One time I had 3 jobs going on. I think it was like, and I wasn't even old enough to have. I had to forge my papers to get working papers. You know, I remember the first IRS thing they sent to my house, and they said, "You sure you have the right child?" You know, wasn't old enough to be paying Social Security and stuff. You know, of getting income tax. It was but you know, that was part of the life, the vibrant life. I mean, there was a time, Wildwood, New Jersey, in the summertime, they had the greatest entertainment. I mean, everybody played in Wildwood. Sammy Davis, Dean Martin, everybody.
Right.
They had one Atlantic Avenue had so many clubs on it, and all these different people, Johnny Mathis, everybody played down there. You know, all the clubs, there was always wild entertainment going on. And you could, you know, Marvin Gaye, the Platters, everybody. So you didn't miss out on anything. It was all, and like I said, there were so many groups from Philly in their own environment. So it was kind of Atlantic City. I watched Atlantic City grow up. And I watched it deteriorate itself as well.
Yeah.
They've never put gambling there. It was the worst mistake they ever did.
I agree with that. I look at the Jersey Shore in general, and you look at places that thrive, like Wildwood still thrives, and
Cape May, and you know,
Cape May, like Ocean City.
Ocean City was Ocean City was the wettest dry city I ever saw. It was there was no bars in Ocean City. You couldn't sell, but yet if you were the trash man, there was so many beer bottles and stuff in the trash. All, you know. Let's say there wasn't any drinking going on down there. That's for sure.
That's it. But then, like you mentioned, when you go to like Atlantic City, and it's like driving from a nice neighborhood to the ghetto. Oh,
I mean, I remember when Margate was a primo, like the Beverly Hills of South Jersey there, boy. And that's all gone. You know, Atlantic City was when they put the casinos in, they dispersed 250,000 people, moved them around, took them away from their houses and stuff. And it was very badly done. Not good.
That definitely sounds like something else you'll probably touch in one of your future books.
Yeah,
like you said, truth's gotta be told.
Gaming was put in Vegas for a reason. It was in the middle of the desert, you know.
Right.
And it didn't affect people's, but they have gambling. They have casinos in Philly, Chicago, every major city, and it's an addiction, gambling. So you have people that are in those casinos. They're betting their mortgage payments.
Right.
You know, you can't make it that accessible to them. And they yelled at us when we had bookmaking and push numbers and stuff like that. You know, for people spending money on it, but they made sure people won. I mean, when we were doing numbers and stuff, you had 1,000 to 1 chance of winning. When they come out with a lottery to make this legal bookmaking, you know what the chances of you winning the lottery are? 25 million to 1. A little different than 1,000 to 1, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Man, oh man. Well, I think the major secret behind it is the of course they cracked down on the quote unquote illegal bookkeeping because they couldn't tax it.
Well, yeah, but here they are. They put all this froth out there that they're going to put legal, lotteries and stuff in, and the lotteries were supposed to help the agent and different things. No one ever sold that money. Yes. Trash was still piling up in cities. They didn't put the money into the cities the way it was supposed to go.
What do I always see?
Where's the money at?
What do I always see? It's supposed to benefit older Pennsylvanians, at least the Pennsylvania lottery.
They don't benefit anybody. They when they put gambling in New Jersey, they had to go to Florida to get the old retired people to vote it in. Meyer Lansky did that because they couldn't get it passed the first time when they had that because it was supposed to benefit elderly people. They never saw a dime out of any of that.
Jesus.
And that's casinos all over the place. Were supposed to be to relieve the budgets of the cities and everything, and it's the other way around.
Jesus Christ!
Stop and think about there's people like in Detroit that when they took the motor industry out of Detroit, a lot of jobs went out the window, boy.
Basically, all Detroit's economy went with them.
Right out the door.
Yeah.
And yet you have a casino downtown, and people down there trying to win, and you can't win. Listen, I never gambled in casinos because I come from them families, and it was first thing Meyer Lansky ever told me. He said, "Listen, son, why do you think we own casinos? They're not there to win. We're there to make money."
Right. It's just like carnival games. They're rigged against you.
Because you're going to keep going back and back and back, even if you win. I remember a guy called me on the phone one time. He said, "My God, man, I just hit that big, the big wheel. It was like a $400,000 win on that big spinning wheel they have every casino."
Right.
I said, "I just hit the big wheel, man. Unbelievable." I said, "Yeah, take the money, go to the window, stick it in a box, and leave it there till you leave." "Well, what are you talking about?" I said, "You'll give it back. People give it back." Sure as shit, and boy, by the time he left there, he had about 150,000 left.
Oh.
And they drug it. Old Vegas, where you wouldn't think of committing a crime in the old days. Believe me.
Right.
It's only one way in and one way out. But you know what the biggest earning guys in the city were? Car dealerships. Because people were hawking their cars to get back home.
Wow.
They would gamble, and they had to sell their cars to get back out of the city. I used to laugh my ass off.
Man, it gives a whole new meaning to what happens if Vegas stays in Vegas.
You could buy some great cars in Vegas years ago.
Wow.
It was a gas. But, it's just the changes are just, Vegas. Who wants Vegas today? The crime in downtown Vegas is terrible.
Well, again, the crime anywhere.
Anyway.
Not to hit on personal things, but I told you before we got on air what happened to my coworker.
Yeah, no, and that happens all over the city.
And it's absolutely ridiculous.
Like they did. I tell you what, I was sitting here at home watching New Year's Eve in Las Vegas, right?
Right.
And it was packed. I mean, there were so many people on the strip. I said, boy, that's a pickpocket's dream. How many pickpockets you think there are over in that crowd right now working it?
What's funny though is there really pickpockets? Because I mean nowadays, like they just digitally scan your card in your back pocket. They can do that.
They can walk by you, and if your wallet's in your thing, you're right. They can what they call sideswiping.
Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, they have access to your information, and they're ordering shit on eBay in 10 minutes. Yeah, it's absolutely outrageous.
Absolutely right.
Man, oh man, Jack, I'll tell you what, man. I'm enjoying this conversation immensely. I've got to have you back on, not just to promote the books, but I would just love to sit here and listen to more of like the world before, as opposed to the world now. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
They can't. One thing they can't see. They can't tell me what I didn't live. You know.
Right.
And then one of the things about the book is this: is what I did. I lived this book, and so they. You know, a lot of people write a lot of books. It's like you see this picture they did, The Irishman.
Yeah.
50% bullshit. I knew Frank Phelan very well. He's from Philly.
Okay.
Frank was from Philly. I knew Frank well. Frank never killed Jimmy Hoffa. He never killed Joey Gallo. He killed from people, but Russell Buffalino I knew well. Russell was probably the most connected Don to Washington, D.C. He was a political guy.
Okay.
Very well connected politically. Keysport, Pennsylvania is a little town in western Pennsylvania where there's a steel town. And when I was a kid, I was taken out there and I sat there and watched. On a Monday morning, limousines used to pull up alongside of each other and envelopes would pass through the windows. Deals that were going to be done in Washington. I said, wow, what is it? They said, that's Washington. They're coming up. They're you know. I said, wow, what a trick. You know, but I was being educated when I was a kid.
See, I think the world needs to hear your education. So, guys, make sure you're checking out Jack's book. Of course, it's available. It's available in local bookstores, Barnes and Noble, Amazon.com, stuff like that.
.com, yeah, you can get a Kindle. Sure, yeah, it's all there.
Oh, there is digital copies of it as well for Kindle and Nook and all the other crazy. Don't believe in paper books anymore.
And that's a trip, boy, I'll tell you.
Nice. Jack, where else can people get in contact with you if they want to know more or have access to other any other projects that you're involved with or whatever?
You know, they just have to look up. I'm on IMD Pro and I'm on the Amazon. FamilyLegacyTheNovel.com is a site that's mine.
FamilyLegacyTheNovel.com. I'll make sure that is in the description down below, guys. You can just click on that. It'll take you straight to the page. Jack, this has been a wonderful experience. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I absolutely did.
Oh, no, you're from my city there.
Well, the next time you're in town, we'll go out for a cheesesteak. How's that sound?
Hey, listen. You know, that's another thing. Pat's Steakhouse, right?
Right.
Do you know that the first 20 years that guy was in business, he was selling horse meat?
Was he really?
Oh, yeah. He got busted for it.
I'm so glad I was the Geno's guy.
Before Geno's was even open. And people used to line up around the block because they were great sandwiches.
Yeah, I heard it's totally off topic, but I heard that McDonald's got in trouble for pretty much the same thing.
Well, McDonald's was a joke from the beginning.
Right, but I mean like back in the 80s.
We had, in Southwest Philadelphia, there was a place called Lou's Hoagies over 52nd and Baltimore Avenue.
Okay.
Lou's Hoagies and Steaks, the cheese steaks and hoagies. Oh, my God. People lined up around the block for these submarine sandwiches. I mean, you're talking real hoagies. Philadelphia, you go to Philadelphia, you got a real hoagie and a real cheesesteak, you know?
You know, when I lived out in Colorado for about 10 years, I used to try to explain this to people. Like, you don't understand, there was a corner deli on every street.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when you ordered, lunch meat sandwiches or hoagies, you didn't get the crap you see in Subway or Quiznos or whatever.
Bingo.
You got something that,
you got the real deal.
Yeah. On a good Italian
Do you know
roll.
what the best part was? The bread in Philly was great.
Amoroso.
They were the bakers, boy.
Yep.
I remember when I was a kid, boy, we used to go down and they made unbelievable bread. The bread was, you can't get that in California.
You can't get that anywhere.
Well, they have sourdough bread out here. You know what I mean? There's very few. Couple restaurants actually import it, and you know what it is? The water. Something about the water, and it's But the bread in Philly with the hard crust, oh my God, the rolls! Oh, please.
So when you coming back out?
It's like when you went to the bakery as a kid and you got those crumb buns and stuff. You don't find them anywhere anymore. Cinema buns and crumb. Oh.
I'll tell you what, man. Again, when I was living out in Colorado, there was a couple decent bakeries out there and all, but none of them can make a butter cake to save their life. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
You got spoiled a little bit in the East Coast.
Oh yeah. Born and raised, man. I come from a military family. My mother's from Colorado. My father was from Brooklyn, New York, and I was raised in Philly. So
there you go, son.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember searching around. I spent the first 2 years of my time in Colorado looking for any place that claimed they had a Philly cheesesteak just to compare.
Yeah, right. You got a lot of luck. You got a lot of luck there, Pappy. Let me tell you. I've been to Denver. Listen, hey, good luck.
There's one. I will say this much, and I don't even know if she's still in business. Not too long before I left, there was a little place out in our Wheat Ridge, Colorado, just outside of Denver. Opened up by a little old lady who used to be a Philly cop and also was part of the Mummers. And
the Mummers, Jesus, that was another crew.
They're still going strong. Not like they used to be, but they're still going strong. But she opened up a little cheesesteak shop, and she would order the ribeye steak from the Philadelphia factory and the Amoroso rolls. She gave an authentic Philly cheesesteak. So if you're ever in Wheat Ridge and if she's still around, look up Large Marges.
Well, it's like Scrapple, you know.
Oh, I love me some Scrapple.
They used to make Scrapple, and when people found out what was in Scrapple, they said, "What? You people ate that?" I said, "What are you talking about? Ate it? It was a delicacy, man." Scrappled eggs on Sunday? Whoa, come on, boy.
You know what? It drives my ex-wife nuts because my kids. That's our Sunday tradition, man. You know, Scrapple and scrambled eggs, and you know, my ex and my current both were like, I'm not touching that. Yeah.
Oh, you're making me laugh. Good. Yeah, this has been a great show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack. And guys, if you enjoyed this video in any capacity, hit that thumbs up button, like, share, comment, subscribe. Check out all the other great podcasts of Realm of the Mist Entertainment. And, of course, all the gaming stuff over at Sounds Dicey Gaming. And if you prefer this in audio format only, you can always check us out on Anchor.fm, Apple iTunes, or wherever quality podcasts can be heard. One more time, Mr. O'Halloran, thank you so much. This has been a blessing and an honor, and I cannot wait to sit down and talk to you again. And I promise you, I just got paid from work today. As soon as my check clears tomorrow, I'm ordering your book. I want to read this now. I'm ordering your book tomorrow morning.
I guarantee you.
Excellent. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack O'Halloran, thank you very much, and I will catch you on the next Breaking the Fourth Wall.